Hey everybody, welcome to Hoops and Health. My name is Tyler Lesher and I am the UCLA men's basketball head athletic trainer. On this week's episode, we are bringing in Mr. Do It Moving, aka Mike G. We are going to take a deep dive into assessments, injury prevention, and how to improve athletic performance. If you're a coach, you're definitely going to want to tap in and hear all the different ways to improve your athlete's performance. If you're an athlete, you're definitely going to want to come in and take notes and understand how that you can improve your health and your athletic performance. Before we get going, I need to say that this project is completely separate from my role at UCLA in the men's basketball team. This role is all about reaching out to other athletic trainers, physical therapists, strength coaches across colleges, the NBA, overseas, and discussing all new different alternative ways to improve athletic performance, injury prevention, and overall health. So get your notebooks out. Let's take a deep dive into hoops and health. And here we go. Welcome my guest, Mike G, aka Mr. Do It Moving.
Let's get it.
My guy, Mr. Do It Moving.
Yes, sir.
Mike G. Here we go. Welcome to Hoops and Health, first and foremost.
Here we are.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
I'm happy that we finally able to meet. Like I feel like this has been a long time coming with how much I've reached out to you and done your challenges on Instagram and stuff like that.
Yes.
So let's just jump straight into this.
Let's dive in.
Okay. Athlete walks in, $50K on the table, says, I want to be a hooper. I'm a college guy. I want to go pro.
Okay.
Where do you start? Beginning. All the way down.
$50,000. First of all, I'm going to say that's not... No, I'm just playing. Well, I think it doesn't really matter for me in terms of how much money is put in front of me because we do set standards and baselines for what we deem as our value. Mm-hmm. So the 50K thing is not going to blow me away. You see what I'm saying? So that's not going to do much to me except almost make me feel like this dude's a little arrogant. However, that's not. I understand the question. The question basically means how am I starting? What am I going to do? What's my process? And the first thing I'm going to do is right then and there after he sets that money down, I'm going to say, okay, you're pretty serious. Let's talk. Mm-hmm. And I think every athlete that I take in as a client always begins with a conversation because I have to have a thorough understanding of their why, their goals, what drives them, when have they invested in themselves outside of monetary aspects. Mm-hmm. You know, what are they made of? What makes them tick? What bothers them? You really want to get that psychological piece out in the forefront so that you know where you can set your standard for the athlete. Mm-hmm. Because I don't care who you are, no one's going to ever live up to your standard. Yep. As a professional, no one really does everything that you want them to do. Right. You know, you got to do this way. You got to do that way. You got to go to bed at this time. You got to wake up at this time. Sleep hygiene, nutrition, this, that, and the third. Mm-hmm. And you preach it every day, I'm sure, to your athletes. But who truly does it? Yep. You know, you'll have some dudes that do 80%. Mm-hmm. Those are your favorites. You have some dudes that do 50%. You have some dudes that do 10%. You know, and I always felt like if I step into the room and I can influence one person out of 15, I did my job. Yeah. Because I'm influencing that one person to do better. Mm-hmm. So figuring out how to set this standard for this individual that seems serious because they can place money in front of me and think that that's going to motivate me. I don't know about that because I want to see how you respond when you're uncomfortable. Right. I want to see how you think and feel when you're uncomfortable and you're in the trenches with me because, you know, a lot of the stuff I post on Instagram isn't the grind. Right. You know what I mean? It's corrective exercise. It's things that are applicable, but it's not the grind. You know what I mean? And I feel like understanding, you really get to know somebody through a 1x20. 100%. You get to understand someone who truly, you get to understand yourself as an individual. Like, wow, I'm really doing this to myself right now. So
and I'm sustaining it. I just put the weight down.
I have a headache. Why do I have a headache? Lifter's headache. It's crazy. But I think that that's the number one component that is most important for me with any first time athlete. Let me see who you are. Like, I want to see your background. I want to see what drives you. I want to see where you come from.
Yeah.
And I think that also plays well into creating a relationship with the athlete.
Right.
Because that's very important in my opinion. What's the saying? Athletes don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Yep.
Right? So that's huge. I think that if you can create this bond and relationship, maintain authoritative figure-esque, but still have respect and also meet them socially, meet them music-wise, meet them all these different components that matter, now compliance is through the roof.
100%.
So, yeah, that's kind of where I would start.
100%. So, and when you talk about just like, you know, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, what you might find too is just like through the basic conversations, asking somebody their why and making them think about it is, well, borderline put a lot of people uncomfortable.
Facts.
You know, and they're like, shit, I never thought about that.
Facts.
Right? You know,
big time.
I know my why. Like, you know, I read Simon Sinek's book, right? Like, Find Your Why. And like, I did like a lot of like meditation, thinking about it. And I was like, all right, my why that I can apply for my athletes is I want to make health simple, right? Athletes don't need to know why, like the science behind all these different exercises, why I have them do certain things, whatever. I just want to make it simple to where I'm like, here, do this. Here's a basic rationale behind it. Cool, done, right?
Yeah.
Making health simple.
Yeah.
So that was like something that I brought into my why. What's your why?
Ultimately, my why is I genuinely am a man of service. And I think that finds its way throughout my entire being, not just as a coach, as a husband, as a grandson, as a brother, as a friend. I just love helping people.
Yeah.
Genuinely love to help people. I'm selfless, almost to a fault. I'm starting to learn how to be a little bit more selfish. But this is just who I am as a human. Like, this is how I'm wired. So, and then you add in a football background with the craziness and passion, competitiveness and the drive, and a little bit of the ego. It built well and transitioned well into coaching. And as an Asian wide receiver in college, I didn't really get a lot of respect off of the eye test. So I had to train to gain my respect. And I trained my ass off. And that's what's birthed my love for training. And working out and shit. And figuring out how to become faster and jump higher and all these types of things. So my why is literally because I want everyone around me to be great. If you come to me, I want you to be great. And I'm going to do anything and everything I can to help you get to that greatness. And that's basically what I stand for.
Hence, greatness breeds greatness, right?
GBG.
GBG. I have so much respect for that. That's awesome, man.
Thank you.
So let's talk assessments. Athlete comes in, you know their why. You know, athletes just say a senior out of college going and making a run for the pros draft. Break me down the assessments.
Yeah, so had the conversation. Within that conversation, injury history is definitely something that we talk about. And then you always want to follow up that injury history question with their athletic trainer as well. So if one of your athletes came to me, I'm hitting you up too.
Right.
Because for some reason people I forgot about that. Right. Dang, I totally forgot I broke my ankle.
Right.
What?
8 years ago, right?
So I'm doing that, but like nuts and bolts assessment, I am a big fan of FRC, functional range conditioning, and you can see that all over my practice. But I also do kind of like a my own version of an FRC or FRA, where I'll put them on the table and I'm looking at passive ranges within the hip, knee, ankle, all the main joints that most people would look at. But then I'll use FRC positions and poses to test active range of motion or controllable range of motion. Yeah, so I'll get them in FRC-like poses to see how much end range strength they possess. I think that there's a lot of value in athletes, especially hoopers, being able to control end ranges of motion. Not only control, do you possess it? Can you control it? And oh yeah, not to mention, are you strong there?
Yes.
Let's take the shoulder joint. Basketball is an overhead sport.
Yep.
Shoulder injuries are typical, and I think that because of the culture of basketball, we don't do a lot of overhead stuff with our athletes.
Rarely.
Right?
Very
so
rarely.
I think that looking at shoulder forward flexion, do you have it? Most people don't.
Yep.
Especially shooters who shoot 7,000 jump shots a day on the gun.
Yep.
And they wonder why their shoulder is tight. Don't possess like quality range of motion in a joint that they use and need range of motion in every single day that they step on a court. And then also, what tissues are inhibiting said forward flexion, and can they control that range of motion? So putting an athlete face down prone and doing a controlled airplane, what does that look like? Most of the time you'll see bad internal rotation. Most of the time you'll see terrible forward flexion. So I think that those types of assessments are gaining popularity, and I think that they're being used more and more. But for me, that tells you so much. Big toe extension. Huge. Like, this is not a fact, but I'm going to say 90% of hoopers have terrible big toe extension, which means they can't extend their hip. So they're trying,
doesn't activate,
and their glute don't activate. So like, as we all know, as kinesiologists and biomechanists, I think we need our glutes to jump and cut and do good things on the court.
Absolutely.
So figuring out these types of things is mandatory within my assessment. And then we'll go into more performance-based stuff. We have force plates. So I love mid-thigh pull. I'll do a single leg version. We'll jump. We'll do all the jump profiling. So non-counter movement, drop jump. And then also like a RSI test as well. And also, I stole this straight out of rehab for ACL. The 3 single leg hop test for distance. Look at those asymmetries, because once again, basketball being an asymmetrical sport, your jump leg is definitely going to be stronger than your other leg, your opposite leg, but by how much? Right. So like, it's okay to be asymmetrical, but not by a lot, right? So I think that being able to identify those things and kind of create a little bit more equilibrium there is important. You know, I've had athletes with 2 feet asymmetry from left to right, 3 linear 3 hop tests, and for me that's just like insane. Like, you're that much less powerful on your other side. Like, is it coordination? Is it because you don't use it? So, but then that plays well into like, how are you going to train this kid? Like, you know, you obviously look at style of play, you look at system, you look at position, and then you can start to be creative with how you program exercise. Do you need to access single leg explosion off of both feet? Is it something that you would use? Is it more of an injury, not reduction thing, but like, are we trying to lessen injury probability? I think that's super important. But mainly passive range of motion, active range of motion, end range strength, and then your typical performance test. I got away from FMS, not because I don't think that it's valuable, but I just think that the other model is better. And yeah, you know, sometimes you can learn things just by watching an athlete move that you don't need to, in which you don't need to use FMS. So that's pretty much how I would approach each athlete in terms of assessment.
I feel like with FMS too, like it's great for just like a general baseline and whatnot, but based on their scoring standards too, it's like very like, all right, almost everybody's doing overhead squat. You're going to be 1 or 2. You know, it's,
you don't need to do it for me not to know.
It's like, I know you're a shitty overhead squat. 90% of Americans overhead squat if they can squat at all. You know, like I don't need to rate that.
Exactly.
Kind of touched on one thing I really like, the single leg hop triple jump test. That was something when I was with the Hornets we did as a pre-draft assessment, and we really hammered all right, how far can you get, but mainly can you control that landing?
Can you stabilize that third landing? That third step, yeah.
And we're getting a lot of 4th, 5th years, players that are coming in and they can't do it. And then it really begs the question. It's like, all right, like is this again is the coordination thing? Did they not get this in their last 4 years of training? Are they Bambi, a one and done out of college?
Correct.
All sorts of different things. I'm not certified in FRC, but I'm a huge fan of it. I train it nonstop. I think
you don't have to be.
Yeah,
it's pretty simple.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a big fan of like that's where injuries occur a lot of times is those end ranges. So brings me to ask this question:
Sure.
Are injuries preventable? Minus bang injuries, contact injuries happen. Are injuries hypothetically non-contact ACL? Is that preventable?
If all factors are managed, nutrition, sleep, stress, and whatever components that fall under that stress umbrella, the answer is no. You know what? That's such a good question because when you really try to understand why people get hurt, no one can really pinpoint anything because I say this to my athletes and the people all the time. I say, every day that you wake up, you are a different human being.
Absolutely. Your DNA changes
every day. You wear Whooper.
I was Whoop. No. I just got off of it. Same thing with my Oregon. I did it every day.
But you understand the technology. Every day I wake up, my HRV is different. My resting heart rate is different. My breathing rate is different. My recovery score is different, which means that the physiological state of Coach Mike G is different, which means my body is different. So with that notion being applied to a day that happens prior to an injury, how do we know what caused that individual to become more susceptible? And then on top of that, how do we know not to allow that person to do what activity that injured them to do?
Right.
See what I'm saying? It's such a multifactorial issue that we'll never truly understand what causes injury. And all we can do is do our best on educating, creating an environment that is controlled as much as possible, as well as keeps the athletes safe. And then give them strategy on how to bulletproof their tissues. But I mean, truthfully, at the end of the day, I don't know if there is ever going to be a way to reduce injury. Soft tissue, I was walking down the court by myself type injury. You know what I mean? I mean, you look at hydration level. If fascia is dehydrated, you're susceptible to a muscle strain. You know what I mean? Lack of sleep is a huge one, right? Like that poor sleep. And then we were talking about this before we got on air. You did your dissertation on inflammation, systemic inflammation. So like, what did the athlete eat last night? To make their inflammation markers super high, and now their body is in a state of flight or fight. Sympathetic tone drive is high. So now things aren't working the way they should be inside. Like, so, I hold my hat high on Drew Holiday. I do, because this is my guy that I've been with for over 11 years. And once I started working with him full time, his injuries went down. I don't even know how much percentage, but his injuries did go down. He was able to play a full season. Why was that? I have no idea. I could say because of my workouts. I could say because of my influence. Who knows? Maybe if I'm not there, he still has this years that he does. Maybe. We'll never know, right? But I do know that I exercised I exercised from a good heart. This is what you should be doing. These are the exercises. Oh, what hurts? Okay, let's do this. Stay away from that sugar. You shouldn't eat red meat before a game. You shouldn't eat red meat after a game.
Right.
Make sure you get some sleep. Don't take a 4-hour nap.
Mm-hmm.
Take a 90-minute nap. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? I'm throwing out all this stuff because I'm seeing what sticks and what doesn't. And truthfully, he'll be the first one to tell you he didn't listen to everything I said.
Right.
And that was okay, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't say it.
Right.
So we were able, still is, I mean, shout out to the Milwaukee Bucks staff.
Mm-hmm.
He's still one of the Ironmen of the league.
Right.
Both-way player, two-way player that gets it done. And had the longest season of any NBA player, going from the championship and playing 30 minutes a game in the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And look at him now.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I would like to say that he has adopted some of our principles and still takes it with him. So,
and I think like one big piece to everything you're saying is like everybody's trying to get a 1% edge on everyone else, right? Like that's what everybody else talks about. I want 1%. You can throw out 15 different things that will make you 1% better. It's just, are guys going to do it? Are you getting the sleep? Are you staying hydrated? Are you consuming nutrition right? Within your nutrition, are you consuming poor oils? Are you consuming poor quality foods? Where do they come from? Thanks. All these different things that it's like, I'm not giving you 1%. I'm giving you 20 different percents. It's just which ones are you going to pick up on, right? Yeah. And I think that that's what a lot of, like, especially young athletes got to pick up on. Yes. You know, I told my athletes the other day, I was like, hey, next time we do just a pure treatment day, we're not being in the training room. We're going to go outside and stick our feet in the grass. It's going to be a nice 75 LA day. Nice. Like, let's go ground. Love that. Like, there's plenty of research out there on earthing, grounding, vitamin, you know, nature, all that good stuff. Yep. Clint Ober is an incredible reference. Are you familiar with him?
I don't.
Clint Ober is kind of like the godfather of grounding. Okay. And his research and studies show that if you plant your bare feet on the ground for 22 minutes, it's enough to pull all systemic inflammation from your body. Whoa. 22 minutes. Okay. And he's like he's a long-term electrician. And so what he did was he was pulling a lot of self-studies. He said that he was like full of cancer and just started grounding himself in Sedona, of all places, which we all know have like high frequencies and stuff like that. But you know, anybody that's listening to this, like, can go out there and research him. Like, he's got a very good background. So anyway, yeah, Clint Ober's that incredible reference to have. Absolutely. Looking forward to. I know you're a big fascia guy. Mm. I'm a big fascia guy. Mm. Anatomy Trains is the second Bible for me.
Thomas Myers, man. Have you ever met him?
No, I haven't.
You gotta meet him.
Yeah.
You gotta meet him.
I mean, the one thing I love about Anatomy Trains is like, look, he comes out there and says, look, this is not like evidence-based yet, more or less. Is kind of what it is, right? But when you read the first like two chapters of it, and you're like, damn, like this shit makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like more sense than the general anatomy and physiology that we're taught our entire lives. Right. You know, and that our bodies are a tensegrity model, that we do function on a, you know, push-pull method of standing upright, that, you know, our bodies are more built like bridges than they are just structures and levers to hold each other up. Correct. What are your thoughts on that, just in general? Like, talk me through your...
Anatomy Trains has completely reinvented my training philosophy. Mm-hmm. And this happened relatively early in my career, but just a brief background, I started off in NFL Combine prep, for the most part. And, you know, output, power, power. You know what I mean? 3 Ps, position, posture, power. Yeah. But as I started to mature and gain a mentor, Scott Mitchell is his name, he is the one that introduced me to Anatomy Trains, fascial lines, and the like. And it was one of these mind-blowing experiences because it made sense. Right. We move in 3 dimensions at different levels with different drivers. And when you look at sport, the best movers look like they're very effortless. They're economical. Um, they never look like they're in a hurry. They're smooth. Exactly. Smooth operators, which is why I love Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
He's always moving to his tone or tempo and his beat. Roger Federer.
Oh.
Dude looks like he's barely out there breaking a sweat.
Yeah.
It's poetry in motion. So when you assess this biomechanical genius, it doesn't look like how we lift weights.
Yeah.
Or how I lifted weights at least.
All.
And I recall vividly when I lifted weights in college. I played football. I was a wide receiver. I maxed back squatted 480. I maxed hang clean 330. Believe it or not, I still don't know how I did that. And I maxed bench press like 300. So I was a strong ass dude because they told me that if the stronger you are at this stuff, the better of an athlete you'll be.
Yeah.
Bro, my hips always hurt. I pulled my hamstring my senior year. And again, I'm not pointing with the finger at the lifting program, but I can say with confidence that this wasn't helping me.
Right.
See what I'm saying? So when you have these self-reflections and you understand that, maybe the way we're chasing outputs isn't the complete picture. It's a part of it. It's not the complete photo. Then you start to look at, okay, well then what makes it up the rest of the picture?
Yep.
And big fans of Institute of Motion, who I would say take the Anatomy Trains philosophy and break it down into a training module and into a training principles and foundations.
Yep. Grab my pen. Keep going.
Institute of Motion is founded by Michel Dalcourt, and he is the inventor of Viper.
Oh, okay.
And Viper is one of the main tools that we use in our training because we love to load fascia. It's Fascial Fitness 101, and training the lines of the body translate best to athletic endeavor.
Yep.
And that's just hands down, period, the way I train. Now, that being said, we do lift.
Yep.
I quoted 1x20. That's the most non-fascial fitness model that you could ever have. That's literally about output and stress and hormonal response and physiological morphology. But what phase are we in? Right? Yeah. So that's a GPP phase, and we don't really care about moving well right now. We're moving well, moving dynamically. We care about changing tissue. So I think that from the grand scheme of things, looking at movement the way people move on court and in life is the way we should be trying to move in the weight room.
Yeah. I think it's a huge piece too. I think Viper, I'm a big kettlebell guy, right? And there's one thing that science is really starting to show, like kettlebell is a fascial manipulator. For sure. You know?
Especially with people throwing them and catching them now and all the contract, relax, contract. Shout out to Sledge and my dog Sledge.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody needs to know if it's a fascial thing, is like put it in a front rack position and try and squat. Yep. Good luck.
It's gonna feel really tension in places you never would have assumed.
Yep. And if you want to feel it even more, put in an overhead squat, then squat. Yeah. You know, that was something I like pushed during quarantine. Man, I had a 26 kilogram kettlebell every day, just goblet squat holds, push press, just hammered it. And honestly, here's the biggest takeaway out of all of that from traditional strength training to when I went into kettlebell training. I became pain-free.
That's all we need to know. All right, we're done talking.
Right? Done. It's a wrap. But it's true. Like my sciatica, it went away. Like all these like aches and pains, joints went away. And I found because when I was training movements and the fascial lines versus like big primary, like, all right, I just need to get out there and bench or squat, whatever, that wasn't the case. I need to offload my squat and be in positions that are going to stress parts of my body that have never been stressed before. Yeah. And I think that's a huge piece to both injury prevention but performance enhancement for 100%. A lot of the athletes that we work with.
100%.
It's not fun. It's hard as hell, but
and it takes time to get used to and buy into, right? Like it's just so different, especially when you get athletes who are traditionally lift athletes, and then you try to start to have them do all these three-dimensional movements with weird reaches, like a windmill, like what kettlebell windmill is an amazing exercise, but like, why am I doing this? So many reasons why. But I think that again, the way we articulate our explanations matter, and that's a part of coaching. So
and cueing 101 when it comes to that is just huge. When you design your programs, are you primarily thinking just purely fascial lines? Are you going into, like, would you break down like 80% fascial lines, 20% muscle, combination kind of?
I think that there's no quantitative breakdown, but I do throw in fascial fitness. I'll just call it fascial fitness, where we're doing some type of fascial loading through the anatomy, through the fascial lines, every day. Every day, whether it's in the warm up, whether it's in the movement, we call it movement strength. The movement strength portion of the workout.
I like that term.
Movement strength. And essentially, putting athletes in precarious positions with external load is the name of the game. Precarious positions. What does that mean? That means that I'm putting my athletes in positions that they'll find themselves in the game. Not bilateral, completely stable.
Single leg valgus.
Single leg valgus with a shift. You see what I'm saying? Which is very applicable in my opinion. Why not train potential stressors that could cause injury? You know what I'm saying? Like, do I encourage valgus loading? No. But I may put an athlete in valgus just so that their brain and central nervous system can recognize said position. And we don't got to be afraid of it. And we for damn sure don't got to go external rotation, knees out all the freaking time too. Right? Because that's just not realistic to me. So fascial fitness is something that we approach every single day. And it doesn't just require Viper. It requires creativity. Because a 45-pound plate is perfect. A kettlebell is perfect. A barbell is perfect. Cable is amazing. You know what I mean? So precarious positioning with external load is critical, especially with basketball players.
I think a lot of times we see with these athletes is that, like, one, that's when the injuries occur, but it kind of goes back to that question of, like, are injuries preventable? In that if you train those positions enough, when they are in those, like, in theory, like, hopefully those injuries do become preventable. If I do put a person in a Bulgarian split squat and I have them put a band around their knee, and I'm just sitting there putting, oscillations on it. And that's causing their whole body to fire in a different manner.
Absolutely.
When they step on a court of chaos and they step and they're in that position, their body signals, all right, like, I've been here before. This is nothing new.
Nothing new. Recognize it. We're good. We can let's keep playing.
Exactly.
When you look at, we're basketball guys. When you look at a traditional step back maneuver, there's a lot of inter hip rotation. There's a lot of knee valgus. And the foot is turned in. Why aren't we training that? This is a very popular maneuver that a lot of people use. 100%. We should train that, and I believe that putting those athletes in that position is going to get them to be more resilient in those positions as well.
Absolutely. And, like, you look at most people who are jump shooters, they're valgus every time.
Every time they shoot.
Excessively valgus.
Every time they touch.
Facts. And all right, so I'll add on to that question. Why? Like, why do they do that? Like, so I think is it compensation? Is it the invention of the 3-point line, to where, like, kids are coming up and they're like, I'm not strong enough, so I'm shooting from the hip and using all my momentum, and then it just builds up over time. Are they simply not strong enough?
Now I'm just breaking it down in my head. First way I'm going to answer this is, I've heard this explanation from somewhere that I don't remember, but somebody once said that when you enter and rotate, you're winding up the glute tissue, so that gives you access to a recoil effect. I don't know what that means, but
Right.
that's what I remember hearing. But now that I'm thinking about it, I think that loading into the hips to create that power, that energy transfer to get the shot up it just takes too long.
Mm-hmm.
Like think about it now. Like if I'm if I catch and shoot and like contested is open in the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time to load into
Right.
my hips and then get through into my energy transfer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? When I study shooters, especially like Steph, who's the greatest of all time, he shoots from his hip and it's like a full body experience, and he don't valgus.
Right.
So through the lifespan of his development, he's created that perfect posture that we would deem perfect from a movement standpoint, but he just problem solved that through his development.
Right.
Why he shoots like that, we'd have to talk to him and say, where'd you learn that? But his release is so quick that the transfer is so fast that he's able to still load into his hips. But if I'm not if I don't have a posterior shift to get into my glutes, but I still got to bend my knees to create said power and energy transfer, where's the load going to come from?
Right.
Is it going to come from my glutes or is it going to come from my quads? So I think that most guys valgus collapse when they shoot is because they don't have time to load into their hips, so they're loading into their quads, and then naturally they enter and rotate.
Right.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought about that right now as you were asking the question, but never would I want to train someone out of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know if there's enough force to create havoc in the system. And not to mention, they've been doing that for X amount of years, which means their tissues are resilient to that load. See what I'm saying? Which is why we do it in the weight room, so they can also be resilient on a single leg valgus component. So
100%. Bring in the next question. When I say positioning, positional awareness, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Owning your space.
Owning your space.
Owning your space.
It's a great way.
And you know what's crazy? And I don't even care about this. Somebody tried to get at me on Instagram about, because I said that in my caption, positional awareness, and he tried to be a smartass and was like, "Oh, you mean lifting?"
No.
And I was like, I don't remember what I said, but clearly you were just trying to be an asshole. And I try to keep it professional on social media because I want everyone to like me.
Right.
I don't want anyone to dislike me. But I think that speaks volumes to our field. Like, guys, let's help each other. Pick each other up. Stop putting each other down. Anyway, sorry. Own your space. Positional awareness.
One of my old mentors, Pal Bernhardt, he used to always say, "Be strong, then be strong in all positions." And then I think that's a perfect example of positional awareness, right? Like, can you get into the position needed for the game and then own it, control it? You know,
we are aligned.
That's a big piece of that is intent, because anybody can just, go through a squat motion, but are you owning that squat from top to bottom?
Indeed.
Controlling like each motion. I hammer this thing called the mob flow, which is like a total body stretch activation that had my guys going, and you can see when they half-ass it. And I was like, guys, like, I don't want that. Like, I want you to get in a bare position and own it. Like, are your hands locked in? Like, are you gripping the ground? Are you pushing your knees out? Like truly activating the tissues that I want you to activate, or are you just half-assing it?
Yeah.
And trust me, if you're half-assing, you're doing it again.
Facts.
I think that positional awareness is something that strength coaches need to be taught more of. As they're coming up and cueing, owning for both themselves and their athletes that they work with.
Correct. I think a lot, like the word intent means so much to me because
100%.
We as coaches need to hold ourselves and our athletes accountable for said intent. Because we oftentimes get comfortable with checking the box.
100.
And I'm a big believer of don't be box checkers. Why are we here? We here to just check the box? I remember vividly getting up on a freaking bench and yelling at the New Orleans Pelicans. Why are we here?
Right.
To check this damn box? Nah, that's not happening on me. So that was just off of the easy observation of just looking around the room and seeing guys just trying to get done so that they
Yep.
can get out of there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So intent is so huge, because if you don't acquire or introduce intent into your movement, then you're almost missing the boat on why you're even there.
100%.
But as coaches, though, we have to be responsible of teaching said intent,
Right.
and teaching it in a way that is understandable and consumable to an 18-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't know how to do that, that's our fault.
Right.
So that's I just wanted to touch up on that.
Yeah, and I think this is tough. This is really tough, because when it comes to checking the box, I think it's a plague within our industry that athlete comes to you, here's a program, go do it. Another athlete comes to you, here's the same program, go do it. That's checking a box.
Correct.
Versus individual programming, whatever it might be, right? And
Yeah.
I think that, every strength coach in America is probably, especially in college basketball, NBA basketball, overloaded with jobs, side jobs, whatever. And it becomes that whole, like, I'm just checking a box. We're here to work out.
Yeah.
And our intent isn't to the level that it should be for the athlete. And I think that a lot of times we're doing athletes a disservice.
Correct.
In doing that, because I saw it when I was with the Hornets and going through the pre-draft stuff. I'm like, man, like, this guy can't move for shit. You spent 4 years at whatever college.
What were you doing?
What were you doing? And then I saw other guys that, like, went through Kansas. And I was like, you were with Hootie for 4 years. I'm like, you are
move.
incredibly well at moving, and you can move weight, and you can own your space, all that stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I really think that that's a piece of our industry that needs checked, 100%. And I think that more people need to hear that. I think that we all get caught up in it. I got caught up into it as an athletic trainer, where there's times where it's like, it's not my day. Like, I'll never just put ice on somebody, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
something.
Sure.
So I think that's a huge piece to it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, and it's a bigger problem than just not being accountable, because some coaches may feel like they're undervalued,
right?
So they put forth the effort that they feel like they're being valued, which
Absolutely
is a bigger issue than what we're talking about. But at the end of the day, you chose to be who you are.
Right.
You got these kids in front of you that deserve your all. And if it's not a good situation for you, get in a situation that allows you to be great. You feel me? And that's kind of where it comes down to. For me, the private sector is my space, because I'm allowed to see one person at a time if I choose. Right. And I can give that person 1,000% of me. It's very difficult to train 15 college athletes or NBA athletes. Right. It is.
100%.
And it's not for everybody.
At all.
But if it's not for you, go do something that's for you.
Yep.
Just know yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, like, these kids matter. And then what happens? The kids get tainted by their bad experience with their strength coach, and now they hate the weight room.
Yep.
Forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's definitely like a slippery slope. Yeah. But it is an issue that we need to try to heal for sure.
Yeah. And like one big piece of this podcast or YouTube, whatever we want to call this, is I'm going to ask the questions that like other people need to hear. I think that's a big piece to it.
It's great.
Nobody really wants to like actually look in the mirror and be like, shit, I'm just checking a box. You know?
Or they'll get pissed off.
Or they'll get pissed off and be like,
and we're cool with that.
Right. It is what it is, right? Like, again, own your position. I'm owning my position. Like, I'm not the world's greatest athletic trainer, but like, I'm going to do my athletes everything that I possibly can to get them to where where they need to be and what they want to do to achieve their goals.
Absolutely.
Intent. And intent is one of the reasons in like years past why like I've gotten rid of like team warm-ups. There's no intent. How many times have like you've seen strength coaches jog, high knees, but whatever.
Yeah, and
it's 40%, 30%.
They're talking about what they did last night.
Yeah. And it's like, what are we doing here? Are you here to check a box, or are you here to get better? Because if you're here to get better, it's a whole different world. Like, if I say 3 slides and a rip through and you're sprinting to the other end, and like I see you jogging, I'm like, no, we're doing it again.
Right.
But again, intent changes, and this is where I learned mainly at like FAU, and that's where I started canceling out like the team warm ups. I was like, as soon as I hand you a basketball, the intent immediately changes.
Pew.
Pew. All right, go up to my coach. Give me 4 minutes to go through some mobility stuff, and then let's go 3-man weave, whatever it might be. Run. Because the intent is going to be way more there, way more sport specific, whatever.
You're going to get more out of it, for sure.
100%.
For sure.
I
agree.
You're the exercise king. Well, I'm just going to call it that. I'll W that. The exercise king.
Not me.
Talk to me about your
not me.
Your EDDs.
EDDs. EDDs is an acronym for Everyday Drills. It is dubbed from my position coach in college, in which we did drills every single day that basically warmed up the hands for receivers.
Okay.
So I stole that from him. Shout out to Coach Survey, Westlake High School head football coach. And I used it as a title for my program, a few of my programs in my app that's launching in February.
Yep.
And essentially, I wanted to provide exercise strategy and solutions for basketball athletes with common pathology.
Yeah.
Hence the name EDD Everyday Drill. You do these every day,
right.
Your knee pain goes away. Your Achilles pain goes away. Through my experience and working with NBA athletes, there is a 15 to 30 minute period prior to getting on court and doing individual PD stuff where we are allowed to lift if they're healthy or address some of these pathologies in the weight room. And I wanted to give that to everybody.
Yeah.
So we have an EDD for stability, in which we focus on basically being super stable on a single leg, both extended and flexed. We have EDDs for tendinitis around the knee, whether it's quadriceps tendinitis or patellar tendinitis. We have EDD programs for Achilles tendinopathy. And I think the literature has spoken and people are pretty much on board with the 40 to 60 minute collagen supplementation right into some isos or extensive plyos, and then all of a sudden upregulation within the collagen network is X amount percentage better.
Right.
And you could do that twice a day, 8 hours apart. So taking that pretty much common knowledge and just packaging it into a digital platform is essentially where EDD lives for us. Right. And we just wanted to give that to people that may not know that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it's crucial, like we kind of talked about earlier, like a lot of these athletes that go overseas, like they don't have trainers.
Absolutely.
And I'm, shameless plug, here's your trainer right now on an app that you can have. Like, if you're struggling with ankle mobility, bam, here it is. Like you don't have the guys like me that are going to be there every day, putting you through the position, but you have the teaching and coaching that you need to go for that. So incredible idea, incredible,
And when you access the app, you aren't going to look at it like, oh man, this is amazing. You're going to be like, makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's not amazing. It's not groundbreaking. The shit that I'm doing is probably what you would do.
Yeah.
But a lot of people out here don't know about this stuff.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give that to people. I've been blessed to be able to build a decent following. So here it is.
Right.
It's for you.
Yeah. I think that, one, I'm going to be a subscriber because I want to steal things. I mean, that's a lot of, like, strength and conditioning, right? Like, seeing what someone else does and going, like...
I copy all the time, brother.
Right.
I'm okay with mimicking that.
Yeah. Mimicking is huge.
Hey, man, no ideas are original.
Facts.
No one makes up exercise.
Facts.
Period. So, get out of here with all that, right?
You
stole it out. I'm the one that... No, you didn't. Stop.
And that's why, like, a lot of people is like, look, just like, I don't know where I heard this from. Shout out to whoever it was, but you know, here's what I know or whatever. Here's what's worked for me.
Yeah.
You don't always need to cite everything. It's like, I didn't make this shit up.
Yeah.
This shit's been around a long way for me. It's gonna be around long after me.
Exactly. And I just want everyone to know that all the exercises that you see me do, I did not make up.
Yeah.
I was inspired by something.
Something somewhere.
Yep.
Love that. Last question. Empathy.
My man.
We talked about this earlier. For everybody in the back, I reached out to Mike G when I was at FAU. Can't tell you what it was. He posted something. I commented on it. He hit me back. I sent him a message and I was like, hey, like I appreciate you reaching back out to me because there's a lot of people out there that, whatever, piss off, whatever it might be, or just blatantly ignore you.
Yeah.
You sent me a minute and a half long voice message back about empathy and what it means to give back.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about this, greatness breeds greatness, and our world is to just lift each other up.
Yes.
Again, I want to thank you for that, and it's awesome that now it's not come full circle. But
I love that.
How much do you talk about empathy to the athletes that you work with, the family you're around? In my personal opinion, I think the empathy is the consistent thing that is missing within the world.
It comes down to ego.
Facts.
Period. Because everyone's protecting their ego. Everyone. That's too generalized. But people protect their ego way too much. I think that if we let our guard down a little bit more and kind of understand where people are coming from, because at the end of the day, we don't truly understand anything about an individual. We'll never understand because we're not in their shoes. Yeah. We don't live where they live. We don't wake up where they wake up. So I approach individuals and interactions with individuals from the scope of, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what's happening. I don't know the complete story in totality. So, and that goes for everyday interactions. I'm talking about my waitress has an attitude, throwing plates on my table. What did you go through?
Right.
Why are you so upset? I'm not asking these questions, but in my mind, I'm like, something is really, really bad. So what do I do?
Be nice to them.
Be even more nice to them, because maybe that little bit of niceness changes their mood and they're better throughout the rest of their day.
100%.
Yes, it's a place of service and you deserve to be served better, but we're human. We're human beings and we have emotions, and emotions dictate behavior.
Yep.
Not everyone can just set aside their emotions and just be spot on. Yep. Some people can, but most people can't. So empathy is a huge principle and component in my just everyday life, because I don't know, everyone goes through struggle. Everyone goes through turmoil. Everyone has a background. I'm not saying my story is worse than anybody's, but when you go through a situation that tests your human character, you start to understand that it's not that serious. Life, shit is never that serious.
Right.
Like, you stepped on my shoe. It's really not that serious.
It is what it is.
You know what I'm saying? You stepped on my shoe on purpose. Hey, man, what are you doing? Right?
That's
but, I'm not about to buck up no more and, hey, man, watch. No. You good, bro. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Service lady. I'm sorry, miss. Did I do anything wrong? Is everything okay? These types of approaches and interactions in everyday life matter. And I feel like that speaks volumes of your richness as a human. Because when you allow somebody to affect your energy, now they're stealing from you.
Yep.
And I refuse to let people steal from my energy. And I control that. So that's where empathy is a huge practice, because put yourself in their shoes and just understand that something happened. Be sensitive to that. And if anything, just get out the way.
Yep. It's
simple. Get out the way. And how do you derive to this approach? Ego. Yep. Get out of your ego. One of my favorite songs, Pride is the Devil. Man, it's so true.
Ego disillusion is a hell of a drug.
Hell of a drug.
Hell of a drug.
So that's where that comes from. I think a lot of it comes from my childhood and my upbringing, and just understanding that, you know, life is too short, and I'd rather maximize on the good versus the bad.
Yep. Love that. Let's cut it there.
My man.
Hoops and Health, episode 1.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
That was fun as hell.
And cut.
I loved it.